Hello and welcome back to the Miles and Goggles Show. I'm your host, Miles. Unfortunately, no goggles tonight. We've got a one-man show here as I'm recording this at 1:08 in the morning. Lakers Timberwolves game just finished up. It's pretty late. Um, so I know he's pretty tired. I know I'm tired too. I'm definitely excited to get to bed, but my goodness, what a day of playing basketball to begin the 2023 postseason. My goodness, I was not expecting this to go into overtime, but let's just start with the game that just wrapped up. In my time, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers beating the Wolves in overtime, 108 to 102 in a crazy game, in an ugly game. Um, Lots of bad possessions, lots of turnovers. This is a game that had 40 combined turnovers and a game that the Minnesota Timberwolves, the heavy underdogs in this game, played about as well as you could have played for the first 42 minutes of this game. But then the final 6 minutes, and I mean overtime as well, just completely collapsed, really. Didn't stop playing the way that got them up by 15 in the third quarter. The Timberwolves were very controlling in this game. Yes, I have paper notes here. I took notes all the game, and I have tons of stuff that I noticed. I'm also wearing a Lakers shirt. I had my Minnesota Timberwolves shirt ready because I thought the Wolves were going to shock the world coming into this game. I mean, if you guys watched the last episode when Goglin and I were talking about that game, we did not give much credit to the Timberwolves in thinking that they would come here and win this game, and they definitely could have won this game. But this is a game that specifically in Anthony Edwards is going to look at and learn from for the rest of his career. Um, but even despite him only having 9 points and going 3 for 17 from the floor, 0 for 9 from three, probably the worst game of his career with the stage. Minnesota was playing fantastic basketball. Um, had a 15-point lead midway through the third quarter. They just could not keep it up. The Lakers kept making runs. The Timberwolves kept responding because the Timberwolves were just on fire from three, and they were led by Karl Anthony Towns, who had a spectacular game, terrific impact, really on both ends, all around in every aspect, except did have 5 fouls. But he was terrific. He started the game out fantastic. I think again, like when Goglin and I were previewing this matchup in the last episode, I think we forgot how good Karl Anthony Towns really is, and how impactful he can be and all the terrific things he does on the floor, specifically on offense. I mean, you saw it in the first half of this game. He was making post fadeaways over Anthony Davis, crazy one-handed shots over LeBron, doing his thing, catch and shoot threes. Even some chase down blocks. He had some terrific no-look passes as well, and 5 assists to go along with his 24 points and 11 rebounds. He was just spectacular, and he was a plus 18. And in a game where you lose by 6, you were outscored by 24 without him on the floor in about 12 minutes with him on the bench with that foul trouble. Just could not get it going. I mean, we talked about it going in. Their depth with the bigs is close to zero with no Rudy Gobert and no Naz Reid. They tried Nathan Knight a bit in the first quarter, played a little over 2 minutes, didn't work there. Then they played Kyle Anderson at the 5 in the second half and the second quarters. And Kyle Anderson had a fantastic game, nearly had a 5-by-5, had 13 assists, which was so impressive. 4 steals, 4 blocks, 5 boards, and 12 points. When you look at the Timberwolves, a very well diverse offense. For Chris Finch, you look at the shot attempts. Besides Anthony Edwards, who took a lot of shot attempts in overtime, you've got Taurean Prince, who took 11 shots. Anderson 14, Towns 12, Mike Conley 11. Um, Jalen Noel off the bench, 7. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was terrific off the bench. I mean, the Timberwolves played about as well as you could have to pull out this game, but those veteran Lakers, man, Anthony Davis, LeBron James led the way. Like, LeBron played terrific in the first half on offense. Defense was a bit of a struggle for the King. That's kind of why the Timberwolves were playing so well, is because LeBron kept helping off of shooters like Taurean Prince. He would be wide open. And Timberwolves were just draining threes. I mean, you look at the percentage to end the game, they were 16 for 41, but I think I have here in my notes. They started out 12 for 23 from deep. This was midway through the third quarter when they had that 15-point lead. But LeBron was really good. Anthony Davis was fantastic, really dominated the offensive glass in this game. Had 9 offensive rebounds. 9 of his 15 rebounds were on the offensive end. He had 3 blocks, 24 points. LeBron had 30, 10, and 6 on terrific efficiency as well. And then Austin Reeves started out the game very well. And then Dennis Schroeder in the second half after turning his ankle when he stepped onto D'Angelo Russell's foot. Weren't sure if he'd come back the rest of the game. Came back about midway through the fourth quarter and played the rest of the way, and had a terrific impact on both ends, being disruptive defensively and hitting shots and making plays on the offensive end. Had the near game winner, at the end of regulation. Let's just get into that. The Timberwolves, they looked dead in the water here. I mean, it was in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, Mike Conley hit a 3 with about 6 minutes to go. They off of a double team, terrific passing by the Timberwolves, but they did not make another basket from that 6-minute point to like midway through overtime. Anthony Edwards had like 2 easy layups that were really just gamey, except he had that nice dunk in transition. But Minnesota, in the final 11 minutes of this game, with the end of regulation and then in overtime, only had 2 baskets. That is not going to get it done. And it really was because, in the first half, I'm sure Reggie Miller on the broadcast was pointing it out, there was so much movement on offense for Minnesota. They were getting so many like easy layups off of cuts. They had to have they had 30 assists, but in the final 6 minutes, and this is something that tends to happen with young teams and just teams in general in the NBA, you play much more stagnant offense and you rely a lot more on isolation. And that's exactly what the Timberwolves were doing. You had Anthony Edwards with several bad turnovers in the fourth quarter. Taurean Prince with some bad shots, 24-second violations. Mike Conley threw the ball away, some bad shots. And the Lakers were able to just get out in transition. And that's really what changed the game. In that fourth quarter, besides, of course, Karl Anthony Towns in foul trouble having to sit on the bench. But we're in that final minute, this crazy sequence where we're tied with 33 seconds left. Lakers have the ball. They throw it into their front court, and LeBron loses the ball. They throw the bad pass. He's going at it with Taurean Prince in the backcourt. They dive on the floor and they call a loose ball foul on LeBron, which was a very questionable call to me. Because, I mean, when the ball's loose like that, especially in the backcourt, close game like that, playoff seeding on the line with this game, you kind of just got to let anything go. And there wasn't really any crazy contact that LeBron made with Taurean Prince. So I thought that was a pretty questionable call. But, hey, as Rasheed Wallace would say, ball don't lie. Minnesota got the ball, and immediately Kyle Anderson dribbled the ball off his foot, went in the backcourt violation, a turnover, and went back to the Lakers. And LeBron did what LeBron does. Had the ball, isolation, one-on-one, drove to the basket, kicked it out in the corner, and Dennis the Menace hit the 3 with 1.8 to go. That gave the Lakers their first lead since very, very early in the game. And I'm sure most people thought it was over. Minnesota hadn't made any baskets for the last half of the quarter. And the Lakers go on that run. LeBron makes that pass. Dennis Schroeder hits the three. They're all celebrating. The crypto.com arena is going crazy. We all thought it was over. I was getting ready to start recording a podcast, but then Anthony Davis decided to foul Mike Conley in the corner on a three at a very difficult three-point attempt, about as deep in the corner as you can get. It reminded me of the play very early in this season, the Lakers' first win of the season, when Matt Ryan had to knock down a three to force overtime. It was a similar play, but Anthony Davis, it just had an uncontrolled closeout. Now, it's a difficult call in that situation, but I think it was the right call because you can't let all that stuff go. Because I mean, I feel like if they wouldn't have made the call, I don't know if it would have been as loud. Um, saying that the officials should have made the call because it was for Minnesota out the Lakers. If the Lakers were in that position, I'm sure that there would be a ton of like outcries. If the Lakers would have lost this game, I'm sure a lot of fans would point to the couple goaltending calls on Jared Vanderbilt that were clean blocks. He had a couple of those that the refs kind of screwed him over on. But regardless, Mike Conley, with 1/10 of a second on the clock, no time left, stepped up and made all 3 free throws. That was very impressive, very terrific. And he really had a terrific game. 23 points, made 6 threes, was very efficient, and sent the game into overtime. Where in overtime there was a lot of Anthony Edwards plays, missed shots, travels. Just a rough game from Anthony Edwards, and I'm a big fan of Anthony Edwards, and I'm sure, and everyone has these, type of games at some point. It's just unfortunate with this stage. Luckily, he's got another chance on Friday night to make up for it and get his team back into the playoffs at Minnesota. But in overtime, let's go. 18.8 seconds remaining. Just as soon as you think that the craziness is over and it's a 5-point game with a minute to go, and Anthony Edwards makes a layup to cut it to 3 with 20 seconds to go. Lakers have the ball again. This time LeBron throws the inbounds pass in the front court, and you would think because it's LeBron, there's no way that they turn it over. Well, turn it over. Mike Conley gets a steal, goes inside, throws it to Anthony Edwards, and throws it into the corner to Taurean Prince for an excellent look for 3 and the tie, and he was just short. Man, that would have been crazy if he knocked that down. But that, in that type of situation for Minnesota, that's about as good of a look as you could ask for from a shooter who's been on fire lately, and especially in this game. But just unable to knock it down, and Lakers were able to survive and knock down some free throws, and they were able to survive and win it. So they advance to the playoffs. They are the 7th seed, and they will face the number 2 seeded Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. That will be tons of fun. Jackson and I will give our predictions on that series in a future episode when we know of most of the other series on a later date. But yeah, just a crazy finish from the Timberwolves and Lakers. And shout out to the Timberwolves for making this a very entertaining game, because going in, I thought that it would be the other way around, that the Hawks Heat would be the close, defensive-minded, gritty matchup. But no, it was this Timberwolves Lakers game, and just a terrific matchup there. Now let's go to the first game of the night, the game where the Miami Heat just laid a dud, man, at home, losing by 11 to the Atlanta Hawks in a game where it was 11, and it was never really that. Well, no, it was a 24-point game in the first half, but it never felt like, even though the Heat got it back to 5, it never felt like the Heat were fully going to take control of this game. And the Hawks were just really, really impressive in this game. And it really all started with the way they came out. The Heat, we were, Yago and I were talking in the preview, who would the Heat start at the 4? We were talking about, would they go with Caleb Martin or would they go with Kevin Love? They decided to go with neither, and they decided to go with Jimmy Butler, starting Max Strus at the 3. They went very small to start. Tyler Hero and Max Strus each picked up 2 quick fouls, and the Heat really struggled to score in the half court to start the game. I mean, they had one of the worst offenses in the league this season because it's so stagnant, not a ton of three-point shooting. But usually you'd be able to say that their defense would be able to pick it up, but that was not really the case. That was not really the case at all. And then the Hawks were they weren't hitting their threes either, but they were getting good looks. They were getting good possessions. Trae Young was doing a terrific job passing the ball. But with the Heat struggling on offense, they decided to in the first quarter they decided to throw in Kevin Love at the 5, and something that I thought was going to happen, and it happened immediately, was the Hawks just went at Kevin Love in every pick and roll scenario, went right at him, and the Heat, they couldn't stop the Hawks. The Hawks scored on 6 straight possessions when Kevin Love was the center, and Eric Spoelstra just had to pull him for the rest of the game because they're so small. And Kevin Love, especially with his struggles from outside with shooting the ball, it's just you can't have him out there. You'd rather have someone like a Cody Zeller, who they tried playing in the second half a little bit, because he can at least go up and defend. So yeah, Kevin Love just unplayable in that quick stretch. But I mean, for Atlanta, just tons of impacts from so many different areas. They had 53 bench points. They had 7 players score in double figures. And interestingly, DeAndre Hunter was not one of them. Clint Capella was not one of them. DeAndre Hunter picked up 5 fouls. He was in foul trouble. He's someone that was big for the Hawks in their playoff series last season against Miami. Had some really big moments on terrific efficiency, but was in foul trouble guarding Jimmy Butler. But it really didn't matter. It didn't really matter at all because everyone else stepped up, and that's something that I made a big point of coming into this game. Is I believe that whichever team's stars showed up and played to that level, that was who was going to win this game. And for the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young showed up. It may not show up in his shooting splits, just 1 of 8 from 3, but did a terrific job distributing, had some crazy like behind the back passes. Great job of just distributing. DeJounte Murray was very solid as well. 18 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, made 3 triples. And yeah, the backcourt for the Hawks, those 2 All-Stars really showed up. But the big key to this game, and goes back to the Heat being so small, is the rebounding. The rebounding. The Hawks out-rebounded the Heat by 24. 63-39 in rebounding. Clint Capella was an absolute beast. He had 21 rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds. And you could really tell that was a big problem in the second half. And we're going to get to Kyle Lowry in a little bit. But in the fourth quarter, the Hawks led by 13 to start the fourth quarter. But then Kyle Lowry started to go on his own personal scoring run. And the Hawks needed to call timeout. It was down to a 6-point game with under 8 minutes remaining. Jimmy Butler comes back in. You think, okay, here come the Heat. They're about to go on this run. They're about to come back and take over this game and get the win like most of us thought that they would. But what happens over that next 6-minute stretch? 6 offensive rebounds by the Atlanta Hawks by Clint Capella and John Collins, some of which led to direct cutting dunks immediately after the rebound. And that was the game right there. The difference in this game was the rebounding. Clint Capella got so many offensive rebounds. So did John Collins, and their guys just did a great job attacking the glass. And that just correlates directly to the lack of rebounding from the Miami Heat. You've got Bam Adebayo, who didn't really have a good game. You can look at the stats. So he had 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, had an all-around game, but he did not have a great impact on this game. And especially an impact you need when you've got guys on the other side like John Collins, Clint Capella, and Onyeka Okongwu. You have 3 very solid rebounding bigs on the Atlanta Hawks. And Miami, you got Bam, and then you got guys that you can't really play like Kevin Love and Cody Zeller because they're liabilities on certain aspects of the floor. Kevin Love on defense, Cody Zeller on offense. So just a really difficult game for the Miami Heat. Terrific all-around performance from Atlanta. I thought that Jalen Johnson was huge in this game. Had a couple of rough turnovers, turned it over in the backcourt when he was guarding Jimmy, or when he was just looking to throw it off after a rebound. Had a travel in there as well. But this guy, 21 years old, just his second year in the league, didn't get a lot of playing time last year, started to get a little bit more this year, and he played very, very well. Besides those 2 turnovers, he played some very smart basketball, and I was very impressed by some of the decisions he was making. He had a couple nice driving layups. He had a couple nice lob passes to the bigs inside. Had a nice putback dunk as well, the offensive boards again. Just a really impressive victory for the Atlanta Hawks. And the Hawks are a team that, you know, we also said coming into the game that 3-point shooting was going to be big. Neither team really shot well from 3, and the Hawks were atrocious, just 10 of 41 from downtown. But the Hawks, man, they just kept getting the rebound and kept scoring inside, and that was the difference of the game. And the Hawks advance into the 7th seed of the playoffs. They will face the Boston Celtics in the first round. Now, the Miami Heat. This was a very, very, very disappointing game for me. This is a matchup that the Heat have dominated over the last year plus in the playoffs last year, in the regular season this year. They just did not come out with the energy that you need to come out with in a big game like this, in a playoff type game. And I don't know if that correlates to the fact that Miami doesn't really have the best, home court atmosphere because there are tons of empty seats because it's South Beach and all that. But still, man, the Heat just did not come out with that aggression. And the fact that they wasted a Kyle Lowry game is so disappointing. You see fans all over Twitter, and I'm sure the team talking about, okay, we expected Kyle Lowry when we signed him to be an all-star point guard, to be Toronto Raptors version of Kyle Lowry. And obviously that's a lot to ask from him, and he's getting up there in age. But when you get 33 points on 16 shot attempts from Kyle Lowry, you have to win that game. You have to win that game. And this is the most points he scored in a Heat uniform, his most points in a game since May 2021. It's nearly been 2 years since he scored this many points. And you lost that game. You look around the other guys. Jimmy Butler, 21 points, 9 assists, but shot 6 of 19 from the field. Got most of his stuff from the free throw line, as he usually does, but just not an uninspiring game from Jimmy Butler. Was very disappointed, considering how well he plays in, huge games, elimination games. He just really wasn't that good. Bam Adebayo, same thing. Tyler Hero was very solid, driving to the basket at 26 points. But you look at the rest of the crew, the rest of the guys that played, when you look at Strus, Vincent, Caleb Martin, Love, Oladipo, Zeller, combined for 13 points, 5 of 21 shooting, 3 of 15 from 3. That's not going to cut it. Because when you have nights that your star guys struggle, like tonight, it's important for you to be able to get other guys involved. And of course, Kyle Lowry obviously had a terrific game off the bench as well, like we just talked about. But like a Max Strus, 1 of 5 from 3, Gabe Vincent, 2 for 6. You've got next to nothing from the rest of the guys, and that's just not going to cut it. And it's going to make me very interested to see how they play in the next game, when they have to play the winner of the Bulls Toronto game that is taking place tonight. So yeah, just a disappointing game from the Miami Heat. And Not something I expected at all from them. I expect them to come out with a lot more energy. Um, but hey, NBA is crazy. Timberwolves almost won that game without Gobert and McDaniel. Crazier things have happened. So, speaking of the Bulls Raptors game, let's get in quickly to the play-in preview for tonight's 9-10 matchups. We've got two of them both on ESPN starting at 7:30. We've got the Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors won the season series 2-1. The home team won each game. And this is going to be a matchup that I think heavily favors the Toronto Raptors, mainly because of their height. And they are such a pesky and annoying team, and an annoying team to play, excuse me. And I don't think that bodes well for the Chicago Bulls. Now, most likely, Chicago's going to start Patrick Williams at the 4 to try to match that height that Toronto has. They'll start, I guess, Beverly, and of course, their big three, Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. But I mean, you compare the heights of all those guys to, I mean, other than a Fred VanVleet, you've got OG Anunoby. He's going to probably guard Zach LaVine. He's been such a terrific defender this year, one of the best in the whole NBA. You've got Scotty Barnes, who's a terrific defender, Pascal Siakam, who's a good all-around player, and Jakob Poeltl, who they reacquired this trading deadline. And then you got a Gary Trent off the bench. You've got a veteran Thaddeus Young, who knows this Chicago Bulls team. And you get the Raptors in their building, which is one of the toughest places to play. They have, no question, a top 3 fan base, as far as like in the arena, top 3 atmosphere in the league. And the Raptors have won 13 of their last 15 home games. I give this to Toronto, but Chicago could definitely pull this off. I mean, these teams are very close. Obviously, it's 9-10. They're very close. And, of course, you never know what could happen. You've got DeMar DeRozan, one of the best Raptors in franchise history, going back to Toronto in this game to try to, spoil the party there and eliminate them from the playoffs. That'd be a crazy scene. You could definitely see DeRozan going off for a crazy game. Same with Zach LaVine. But I'd pick Toronto for this matchup because of their height and their length. And I think that heavily favors Toronto in a matchup versus the Chicago Bulls. Then after that, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New Orleans Pelicans. And this is an interesting one, man. I'm excited to see this game, to see the Thunder play in postseason basketball with a roster full of kids. I mean, it's going to be so much fun to watch them against this Pelicans team, which is always fun to watch with all the talent that they have. I mean, you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're going to have him guarded by Herb Jones, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. That's going to be a treat to watch. You've got Brandon Ingram. He's probably going to get guarded by Lou Dort, who's a pesky defender. You've got both of the rookie Jalen Williamses. But J-Dub up for Rookie of the Year. He's gonna shine in this postseason stage. I think Jonas Valanciunas is gonna have a good game going up against a rookie. I think that he'll be able to bully him in the post a little bit, but we'll see what happens. This is a matchup that I think is gonna be really close. The Pelicans, they won the season series 3-1, but the 3 games they won were by a combined 10 points. So the games were all super close, and I expect another one of those games tonight. But once again, I'm going to pick the home team. I'm going to pick the New Orleans Pelicans, mainly because I think that OKC and them being so young and them not having any real veterans on this roster besides like Dario Saric, they have like none of those guys that have really been there before, other than excuse me, briefly Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort early in their careers when they were both rookies, and Shai was in his second year. So I'm going to pick the Pelicans for this one, but I'm definitely excited to see how the Thunder play in their first postseason game with this new core. I mean, it should be an absolute treat to watch. Um, so yeah, I believe that is it. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we're gonna have the recap of these Bulls Raptors and the Thunder Pelicans games. And then preview those matchups. Of course, they're gonna be playing the Miami Heat and the Minnesota Timberwolves in their next game. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Day one of the postseason was awesome. I'm so excited to see the rest of it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe if you want more daily postseason coverage. Hopefully we will have Goggles back on the next show. We'll hope that he's able to join us and stay awake for all this. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out our Twitter pages, both for the show and individually, our YouTube channel. We post some other things on there. Jackson and I are on a high school rec basketball team, so we post some of our games in there. I know the guys all like that. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Miles, and I'll catch you in the next one.